Little Droid 2 is the sequel to Little Droid that I 100%ed earlier this year, a 2D pixel art Metroidvania where you play as a robot who's trying to escape from a strange world. And while this sequel makes a ton of amazing improvements from the first, it also introduced one problem that somewhat ruins the experience. Bosses are bad. Now, before we jump in, I do want to let you know this game has Steam achievements. No, I did not complete them. I tried my best, but one requires beating the boss rush, which is borderline impossible / incredibly time-consuming. Instead, I played 100% of the game itself, beating all the bosses and uncovering the full map. I was actually given a Steam key for this one, so huge thanks to the dev for letting me play it for free. That being said, let's jump into Little Droid 2. After the events of the first game, we've been teleported to a strange new world. After landing in the trees, we need to look around for any signs of life that might help us out. You start with 3 blasters to swap between, and the mechanics are basically the same as before. Moving uses energy. When you finally run out, you can't barely move but at a snail's pace. HP can be increased by exploring, and you can purchase HP and energy back at rest stops. For a major improvement over the first game, we have fast travel. You can freely teleport between any checkpoint around the map, greatly improving any farming you need to do as well as making exploration a solid experience. I soon encountered a strange old man who told me we would need to find various colored keys to open up new areas. These are hidden all around the map, typically on the opposite end of where you need to go next. They also open up similarly colored chests around the dungeons that grant small gray wheels. These can be used to upgrade your different blasters' damage. However, the game doesn't really do a good job of explaining how to use them, so I just assumed I needed to wait until I found a station or something. Well, boss number 1 would instantly prove me wrong, as this fight took a ridiculous amount of time to defeat. He's a large wooden tree covered up by some bramble at the bottom. Gigantic spikes will fall from the sky, piercing you if you don't move. Seedlings will bounce around the room, attempting to distract you or even deal damage themselves if you don't move side to side. Small tree creatures are going to drop down, requiring you to defeat them while dealing damage to the boss at the same time. And you can't hit the tree unless you jump up, as his midsection is the actual hitbox. Now, this is probably the best boss fight, as the difficulty here was my fault. We have 7 entire weapon upgrades to use. I merely hadn't figured out how. The mini stumps do drop energy, so we don't have to worry about running out. This was just taking forever, with slow jump shoot after jump shoot. Eventually, we were able to succeed after a total of 2 deaths, granting us the green key. Now, clearly something is wrong as I'm not dealing any damage. Lo and behold, you can upgrade weapons by pressing pause and selecting it from the drop-down menu. Really would have loved a more obvious explanation on this, but it is what it is. You can upgrade range, speed of bullets, and damage. Damage obviously is the most important, with range greatly decreasing your chances of getting hit yourself. Overall, the areas of Little Droid 2 are great. The enemies are fun to fight, and there's enough variety to keep you engaged. In fact, even the map feels like it was greatly improved. This of course leads us to boss number 2. While not terrible, it does set a very bad precedent for everything that is to come. A very odd creature sits in some sort of alien motorcycle. He's gonna ride towards you, dropping off TNT to keep up pressure. He also places a temporary laser across the floor, cutting off all your extra room. You can jump onto these 3 hanging chandeliers that are covered in spikes instead of lights. All the while, make sure to defeat 2 flying creatures that will grant energy and annoy the heck out of you. Finally, he has a completely unfair attack where he uses gusts of wind to pin you against a wall. Have fun dodging projectiles with no space whatsoever. Overall, an interesting fight that is ruined by the extra minions. There's no way to correctly engage with the boss because the extra ads instantly get in your way. Also, the boss fights are incredibly drawn out, something that was not a problem in the first game as they went down very quickly. Heck, the later bosses were almost impossible to die to with how fast they went. This is a major overcorrection. You're in these battles for an absurd amount of time, and since the combat is relatively simple in nature, it instantly drags on and becomes monotonous. Big steps backward in this regard, which will come up more than just once, unfortunately. In the end, he dropped after 3 deaths, granting me my rocket launcher blaster, which was actually my main choice in the first game. The frustrating thing is that overall level design, platforming, music, and general feel are vastly improved. I mean, this game is great because you're actively rewarded for exploring. Chests all grant weapon upgrades, which improve combat and make you much stronger. You even have chests that are hidden behind invisible walls, giving the player more opportunities to get creative. But oh boy, are bosses a giant step backwards. Which is the perfect segue to the third boss encounter, Mothron. Okay, the thing is more like a large beetle, but you get the idea. So I have one question to ask you. If you have 4 separate blasters to choose from, but only the green one can hit the boss at all, which blaster do you think you're gonna use? Duh, the green one. The green blaster fires a spread of projectiles that have more chances to hit. This one deals close to the lowest damage, but nothing else even works. I later found out that the ideal style for combat is actually to fast swap. Cycle through your blasters as quickly as possible, as each has their own cooldown before they can fire again. You can get around the cooldown by swapping. Well, this is incredibly tedious and annoying. I can't use the blaster I want, and now I have to constantly press 2 separate buttons while dodging attacks. I also really hate running out of energy because the boss doesn't drop any whatsoever. Yeah, I'm supposed to run around dodging projectiles, only attacking every so often. But this always runs me out of power, which means you auto-lose. Ultimately, I was forced to sit completely still as often as possible, only dashing one direction or the other to avoid the boss's projectiles, as dashing is much faster and won't run you completely out as fast. Even then, half the time you're forced to take multiple hits when the boss drops on you out of nowhere. This was a horrible boss fight, easily one of the worst I've ever completed. Took me 6 deaths that were each unbelievably drawn out. But hey, at least we have the pink blaster now, which is a pretty fun one. I played through on hard mode, mainly because I did the same for the first game. It would seem there's no change between the 2 games here, as you need to farm for an hour or so after boss fights. This lets you get the resources to purchase health and energy back. In normal mode, the boss resets all your resources. That being said, the ability to fast travel made for much easier farming. You can actually get to several really solid spots on the map that have easy energy drops, so that is an amazing change, no doubt. Boss number 4 coming in hot. This guy's a large plant mouth with an intelligent sprout at the top. Most of the time he merely sends out green leaves that you can duck under or jump over. Makes it extremely easy to deal damage without so much stall time. Sadly, another aspect that hurts the boss fights is the performance. As I mentioned, you really want to swap weapons constantly to deal real damage, which I think is a mistake, but ignoring that for the moment, this game will completely freeze for a brief second every time you swap to and from a blaster. Because the bosses have projectiles going and you're inputting so quickly, the experience becomes jarring instantly. There were also several other bugs, like enemies being upside down unintentionally, the soundtrack mode playing menu music over it so you can't actually listen to any of the good songs, and volume sliders doing nothing. I unironically played 80% of this game with my headphones off. Having no sound was better with how loud everything was. Only 1 death against the Sprout for a pretty fun fight. Turns out actually being able to attack the boss anytime you want makes for a great encounter. After some tricky platforming sections, we reach boss number 5, I think we're on. Another terrible experience that could not be overstated. How this works is you can only hit him with the green blaster, because he flies at the top of the arena most of the time. There are small flying robots he can summon that chase you when you get close. The way the fight's set up, you can't dodge the boss and the robots at the same time. For many attempts, I was completely stumped, since each time you kill one, the boss summons another where he's at. Actually, this was the clue, as you need to kill the minion when the boss is in the top right corner, placing the next minion way out of your aggro range. Now we can hide on the left, dodging and doing the most minuscule damage ever. There's not a good way to dodge him, instead you just kind of want to hop up and down in a corner. Plus, since the green blaster deals horrible damage, you want to mix in rockets whenever possible. Well, that often gets you hit. Here's the deal, these kinds of fights are fine, but when you're forced to engage with them for this insanely long, they instantly become a slog. I mean, look at my health, man, all of that and this still came down to the wire. 13 deaths in total had me losing my mind. Each attempt taking nearly 10 minutes to complete, this was outrageous. Making my way through a facility filled with turrets and flying robots, we might finally have found a spaceship off this planet. That is, if we can defeat the final boss. Guys, this was simply put, painful. The large mech ship being piloted can send out lasers, energy blasts, and hammers. You get 2 platforms to hide under where the lasers can't hit you. In concept, a great battle. Well, here we go again. The green blaster is the only thing that hits him in the claws for damage, so the fight takes forever. You're never given any energy, meaning once again we need to move as little as possible. The lasers move twice as fast as you can, never letting you get back onto the platforms in time. And for one of the worst attacks I've ever seen, we have the hammers. These are impossible to avoid unless you nail a perfect position 3 times in a row. He spams them constantly though, so much so that I was losing all my health to just the hammers at one point. Mostly you just want to hope and pray he doesn't use that move much. I was baffled. How on earth did these bosses get like this? I mean, what's the point in different blasters when you're only able to use one on a boss? Why do these fights need to last minutes at a time? Bro, the first game was just a plain good experience, whereas here I feel like I'm being punished for something I didn't even do. 15 deaths later, and I finally managed to win with a single HP left to my name. As the mechanical building around me crumbles, we board a spaceship and get the heck off this miserable planet. Thomas, the old man, joined me as we fly away to safety. Or possibly to even more danger. It's mostly left up in the air. At this point, I was finally done with the pain and thought, okay, we can grab the final 5 achievements and get this one done. No. There are several secret chests around the map that I could not find. Instead of going back to them for now, I figured why not try and beat the boss rush mode. The last game didn't have this mode, and it's only available after you fully beat the game. This is because all upgrades you unlock are used in the boss rush. Health upgrades and weapon upgrades matter way more than ever. I had pretty much all of them really, outside of a few upgrades for the blue blaster that didn't matter. What's really cool is you actually fight through every boss in the first game. Go back through and defeat this small flying robot, a brain in a floating bubble, the Tiki Master, a rocky golem, one floating brain, and a robotic gunner. Unfortunately, this is very difficult as you need to beat every boss in one go with almost no healing at all. Every win gives you 1 segment of health back, but come on, that's really nothing. To be honest, I had had enough of this game, and because the health on each boss was outrageous, even in boss rush, this was not a good time. I decided to let my brother try and win to see what he thought or could do, since he is kind of better at these kinds of things anyway. Well, it turns out you need to beat every boss in this game as well. Yep. Every boss from the first and second in a row, basically without ever getting hit, since the final boss is always going to deal damage. Nah, dude, this isn't happening. The bosses in this game are unfortunately terrible, and even the ones from the first are way worse with so much health. I just don't understand why this is so grueling of an experience for absolutely no reason at all. In the end, Little Droid 2 is a promising yet disappointing sequel. A lot of quality of life changes make the overall gameplay far better. In my opinion though, the bosses were greatly fumbled. None of them are fun to combat outside of the first 2. All of them need half the HP, which is the main problem, and most of their attacks are just awful to avoid. I do remember the later bosses in Game 1 being easy because you could deal so much damage with the green gun or the rocket launcher. This is a major step in the wrong direction though. Weapon swapping being required feels wrong as well. I would have preferred if we actually had different blasters, maybe less of them, or you could combine them in some way. And some of the bosses not dropping any energy is deplorable. Not to mention there's one too many bugs that included a few game crashes. I feel bad, because the dev did watch my video on Little Droid. He then decided to let me play this sequel for free, as I proceeded to crap all over it. Again, a lot of good changes were made here, but overall it's a little too painful to go through. The overall boss design massively decreased in quality, and since my enjoyment from most games like this comes from the boss fights, this one just didn't do it for me. Thank you so much again to the dev for letting me experience Little Droid. Sorry that I didn't enjoy it, but I gotta be honest, or what's the point? If you guys would be sure to like the video and comment down below, that would greatly help me out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.